What's going on, folks? Hope you're having a wonderful night or day. Welcome back to the party. Today you'll have to forgive me because I'm a little sick, got a cold from the little one, but I'm going to do my best here. Today I wanted to do a guide video for a build that I wanted to make called the Vampire Dread Knight is what I'm calling it. And it's a build associated around conjuring. That's one of the main focal points of it, alongside melee. So using this battle axe, for example, you could also use a claymore, but I think the battle axe kind of suits it perfectly because of reasons that I'll go over in a little while. And then also using magic. So any kind of destruction magic, restoration, although restoration isn't really a major of it. So I'll go into the character menu. We'll start here. The race that I have is the Breton. That's the one that I started with. I've also got the birth sign, the Atronach. So the Breton, them by themselves, they give you magic resistance, and they also give you bonus to your magicka. So they give it like a... I'll actually go to the magic and the active effects, just kind of explain it better. So like as a Breton, hold on a second. They've got like 50%, it should be 50% resist magic, so that's a strong amount. And then I also have a little bit from my equipment that I'll showcase in a little bit, but 50% right off the back just by being a Breton. Also, as far as your mana points go, you get 50 from that as well. And then we come to the Atronach sign, which you can see there. It gives me an extra 150, but also it gives you spell absorption. So that's 50% chance of absorbing spells that are cast at you, and on top of the 50% magic resistance. But you also have the stunted magicka, which means that your magicka regeneration, your mana point regeneration is halted. And it's a little bit of a difficult thing to deal with early game, but as you get further and further and you start to explore these ruins, because they'll have these stones that I'll showcase in a second, and also as you get further into alchemy, it becomes very much manageable with a good amount of mana potions. And also I'll show you where my favorite spots are to gather them. You'll be fine. And also the DLC, so like the Frostspire place that I'm inside right now, which is going to be, if you want to look for it, it's east of Bruma. And this is an area you can come to, and then you'll find a book inside, and it will allow you to buy this place, or not really buy it, but get it for free. And then you can go over to one of the cities and buy the rest of what you need in there. So it's a really easy one to get from one of the DLCs, and it also comes with its own living space, which, hold on, that's the vault. If we go in here, oh, also, when you get one of the upgrades, you're able to actually summon a permanent Atronach companion. Because I have a Mage apprentice follower, which I'll also go over in a little bit, I can't actually summon one right now, but if I didn't have him, I could spend like 3 fire salts to summon a fire Atronach permanently, or I could do 3 void salts to summon a storm Atronach, or 3 frost salts for an ice one. And I do like the concept of this, but I found that they feel so buggy. Like anytime I'm trying to get them to follow me, it like doesn't really work. Like they kind of do what they want, right? So like I could be going inside of a ruin, and the Atronach may not follow me in. It may, but then when it does, it may get stuck on, you know, a cave wall or something, because they're pretty big. I found that the fire Atronach is probably the most reliable in terms of its movement. But it's kind of just, you know, I would probably just go with like a Mage apprentice, or if you're able to get a different follower through another means. There was actually a Knight's quest line that I was kind of getting started on that involved an orc. I can't remember her name, but I used her as a follower for a little while, because you could just let her, you didn't have to do her quest. You could just kind of take her wherever you wanted to, and she'd follow you. It was kind of annoying trying to keep her alive, though. By the way, I'm playing on expert difficulty, so that gives you an idea of how hard it was to kind of keep her alive. But anyway, aside from that, I'll go into the living space and kind of tell you what I'm talking about. So when you get this frost area, alongside being when you get through the Mage's quest line, and when you're first starting it, you're going to get access to a lot of alchemy ingredients. So here I have this personal garden in the Frostspire place that I can just pick up all of the stuff that I usually just go through, and I don't really look at like what, you know, all they can make individually. I just use the filters while I'm inside while I'm inside the alchemy menu, and it makes it way easier. And you get, for right here, you get resources from different regions. Like this is usually what you find in like an Oblivion portal, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, you can get all that stuff there. And then in the living quarters, you also have this alchemy table. When you come to it, it hasn't popped up yet because I've got so many of those that it's still going through them, but it will actually increase your alchemy level temporarily. So this is going to increase it by about 15 points. And what you can do here is, when you open up your alchemy stuff, and I just kind of filter it by the money. And so there is actually different bonuses associated with the type of bench that you're using for alchemy. This is kind of something that was confusing to me early on. I wasn't really sure about it. But if you want to increase the magnitude and the duration of a positive effect, you would use the Master Retort. And I think if you're going for like a negative effect, like the damage health, for example, like poison basically, you use the Calcinator. Or at least that's the one that I used after I was looking at the different bonuses. So I use the Master Retort for this situation, and then I go to the filters, make this super easy, so it basically gives you all the filters that you can access with what the materials that you currently have. And I go down and restore Magicka, and then my two favorite ingredients to use are the steel blue caps and the flax seeds, because you tend to find a lot of them out and about in the world. And right here, look, that's 14 points of Magicka for 68 seconds. That's a lot. That's really good. So yeah, obviously, like I was saying, you'll be able to get a lot of mana pots once you get to a certain stage in your journey. And when you're first starting out, though, the places that I like to gather this stuff is, and by the way, the resources will respawn out in the open world every 3 days, or should be every 3 endgame days. I go to this place, Keatatar. I don't know how you say it. This place has a ton of those steel blue mushrooms around it, so I just go all the way around here and gather up as much as I possibly can. And then actually, really, in this whole forest area near Skingrad, there's a lot, and I read about this early on, there's a lot of resources for mana regeneration potions. And then what I do after that is I go over to Goblin Gem's Cave, and there should usually be a decent chunk of flax all around here that you can utilize. But when you're a part of the Mage University, when you become a part of the Mages Guild and you go around doing all the Mage Guild quest lines, because you have to go to the different cities and do all the minor quest lines for the schools to get recommendations to get into the Arcane University. And then after you do that, which I'll go outside and show you what that's all about, you'll be able to harvest even more resources from there. So we go in here, and then, as you can see out in this courtyard, you got a ton of alchemy resources that you have access to from the moment you get into the Arcane University. You don't have to get very far in the quest line. You just have to... The most annoying part about it is just going to the different cities and doing all of their recommendation quest lines. But once you have all that done, then you can get in here and enjoy a lot of the good stuff. But but aside from being in the Mages Guild, and a big part of this build is I'm also in the Thieves Guild. Of course, I'm also a vampire, so like if I go back to my active effects before I get too far, I have vampirism. And part of the reason that I have that is it does actually fortify my... it fortifies different parts of my magic, so like destruction, it fortifies my... what else? My mysticism. It also fortifies... there's something else in there. But yeah, magic in general. And then as you get through the different stages of vampirism, you get more benefits from it as well. So whether you want to be a vampire or not is pretty much up to you. But that's the one that I went for this build, and it actually works pretty well. The next thing I want to talk about is the attributes. So of course my character is level 27. He's leveled up pretty heavily. But the first two stats that I focused on was I focused on maximizing intelligence first. So each time I would level up, I would probably put like 5 points into intelligence, about 4 points into strength, and then I didn't focus on willpower. You get the 55 by default just with, or like you get like 50 by default just by being a Breton, because you get bonuses from that and whatever else I got bonuses from it for. And then I'd start with endurance, leveling that up. Once I got intelligence to 100, I would focus on my strength, and then I would start also putting points into agility alongside endurance. And then eventually I started doing luck. So I think after I got both of these stats to 100, then I was focusing more on luck as well, since it has an effect on all the skills, everything you do. Like, it gives you small bonuses based on how much luck you have, so it's something that you'll want to consider. As far as my major skills, I don't know if I'd recommend this exactly. For my build, the one thing that I really wanted to focus on was Blunt as the melee weapon. Part of the reason was when you are a journeyman, your power attacks grant you a shield temporarily. Well, basically is the same as like using the shield spell, which you can do with alteration. But I like the concept of it having that on the weapon itself. And then also being able to silence your opponents. When I get expert in a level, I'll have that capability, which is really good because obviously this build is more of a mage killer, and you'll see that when you get to my gear section. Another major skill that I do recommend is the alchemy one. The block one, I'm not sure if I would recommend that, because with this build I haven't been doing a lot of blocking at all, which is clear to see as far as my stat goes. So I don't, because usually the mobs will focus on my conjure, so I don't really need to block that much. It's very rare that I do. Most of my blocking comes from the fact that I'm on expert difficulty. If you're on adept, you're probably going to clean a lot of the crap very quickly and not really have to worry about that. Or when they nerf, if they end up nerfing expert difficulty and master difficulty, then you're probably not going to have to worry about that as well. So I'd probably, if I had to do it all over again, I'd probably trade block for maybe, I mean, restoration's easy enough to get leveled up. I got 100 without even trying. You know, over time it's good, but I'd probably trade it for like maybe either illusion, because I feel like illusion might make more sense with the ability to go invisible and paralyze people. I think that is also, yeah, paralyze people, silence people, either that one or even alteration as a major. So then you can also focus more heavily on the shield side of things, and also like lock picking, for example, because that's a big part of this too. Now, of course, conjuration and destructions, those are clearly focal points of the build. Conjuration especially, this is one that I'd have to recommend taking because you're able to utilize the conjures in a very great way. So the two that I really focused on at in-game is the how do you say this? Daedroth and the Ziv something. So the Daedroth, I would first recommend going for like whatever you can possibly get. You know, the skeleton melee ones at the very start, those will be fine. And then you can work on getting to the clan fear, because those clan fears are absolutely busted. And I still don't know if I'd recommend going Daedroth or clan fear for your melee based one at least. But I will say that what I've noticed, and by the way, you can have them even with the follower too. But I will say that what I've noticed is that their attack animations and their like range of attack seems to be far greater than if I were to summon like a Dremora Lord. So like the Dremora Lord, I think, is like one of the max tier ones that you can utilize. But if I were to summon it and then have it just go around attacking people, I don't feel like it attacks as often and as effectively as the Daedroth and the Clan Fear. So I would actually recommend sticking with those two for your melee-based ones. And then when I'm dealing with an enemy or a series of enemies that are more magic-based, like the Wraiths, then I go for the Ziv. So this guy right here, oh, he's fantastic. This big bastard. He casts spells, and he also claws the enemies, and he can affect both the ghostly enemies and the regular ones. He's the one that I focus on for dealing with those kinds of enemies. I don't know if it's like an effective thing to do this, but when I'm fighting mages like the necromancers and whatnot, I'll just use him on them anyway, because I just feel like he tends to do a little bit better with them. It's probably because of the ranged attack, so even if they're running away, he's able to utilize that to catch them. But those are the two that I highly recommend. You can do your own testing. This is pretty much like my first time getting this far in Oblivion. I played it as a kid, but I never quite finished it fully. So you might have better tips, better tactics. Please leave those in the comments below if you do. And then, of course, destruction. I focus mostly on lightning, although you can do fire, ice, doesn't really matter there. But those spells are extremely useful for catching mages, being able to use those gap closers and just get, some weave in those attacks, especially if you're on master and expert difficulty. Having to weave in magic was pretty much crucial for me because I couldn't just go toe-to-toe with everybody. They would do way too much damage, especially early on, so I had to use the destruction. And the mysticism, this is another one where I'm not sure if I would really keep this one on the major. This is another one where you could also, if you did want to keep block, you could probably trade this one for alteration, because I think I tend to use alteration spells more than I use mysticism. This one at the very beginning, it sounded nice because you can use spells to absorb magic, reflect damage, dispel, move objects, sense life, reveal paths, and bind souls. But pretty much all that I can actually get through gear. So I didn't really need this one as a major like at all. And then light armor, I would say light armor has been a major focal point of this build as well. Now, of course, you would imagine, like, with the build like this, that you'd probably want to go heavy. And at first, I was thinking about it, but I'm actually very glad that I went with light armor. Part of the reason is the gear, which I'll go over in a second. But I also didn't want to be too heavily penalized for using magic, even though I know when you get trained up further and further, you're able to have less of a penalty. But I felt like it would just made more sense to go light armor, and I could also substitute some of the damage resistance that I'd be losing out on for the shields when I did get access to those. And as far as the faction, so of course the Knight Errant, that part I mentioned earlier, that was the knight that I had running around with me for a long period of time. and fighting as my follower. And then you got the 9 divines. I haven't really focused on this one yet. I actually have to do some reading on what this gives you, because as a vampire, I don't know if this will actually be beneficial to me at all. I think it gives you some armor in the end. I think it's some heavy, and it might have a light variant. The Thieves Guild and the Mages Guild ones, though, these ones are extremely important. And the Mage Guild one, this one I would say is crucial because you can get a lot of alchemical ingredients for doing this one. Of course, like I mentioned, you can also get a mage apprentice to follow you. Where did he go?
Not a bad way to make
Where did you go? Oh, you're so getting fired, bro. But yeah, you can also get into the Archmages. You can also get the Archmages headquarters, which is extremely useful because when you get to this point, you're able to get this enchanted chest, and you can basically, oh, they might have actually had a drop off. You can put alchemical ingredients inside, so like I can put 1 single flaxseed or keep 1 single flaxseed in here, and after 24 hours they're going to deliver some more. So that's another way to get even more alchemical ingredients to kind of offset the Atronach stone thing. But when we get to the weapons and the gear, so this part's really exciting. So for the weapon, I've got a battle axe that's called the Drainer. So I essentially got very, very lucky. So on my second, and by the way, I'm pretty sure I saved scump on the first one. You could do that if you want to or not, but it's up to you. But on my second Oblivion gate, I got a sigil stone in the first try that had a absorb magicka strike on it for this one right here. So it's got 50 magnitude absorb magicka on strike, which is insane. This is another way you can offset the Atronach stone. You may not need this. You might even be able to go for drain health. I would recommend one or the other though. Probably would still stick with absorb magicka, and you can get a lot of your healing from restoration. And you get these sigil stones that I'm talking about by doing the Oblivion gates. When you get further in the story, you'll see what I'm talking about there. But when you get to the very end and you're going to quote unquote destroy it and get your sigil stone, you can just either like save and reload if you want to until you get what you need, or you can just keep doing them until you get lucky. And the first one I had to keep reloading to get what I wanted, which was absorb magic on my gear. But for this one, I was able to get lucky for the absorb magicka on strike. Now, one thing I'll show you here is there is a area over here called Sundercliff Watch. So I discovered this pretty early on by asking around in, I think it was Chain Hall, or either there or like around the Imperial City. But this Sundercliff Watch place is an area you can go into, and it's actually where I got the majority of my gear. Now, I'm sure it's no secret, and you probably noticed it already, that my character doesn't really look like somebody that you would classify as like a vampire lord dread knight, right? Definitely not looking like a knight at all. But his gear is the gear that I have is extremely, extremely important, and I got it from that area, most of it from that area. So let's go there real quick, and I'll show you. So I think this area actually ties into a DLC. I'm not 100% sure, but all I know is I have a quest that I haven't done in a little while that is associated with it. Hold on. And see, these guys have a ton of health when they're on expert difficulty. Oops. Hold on, I'm a little rusty. I haven't played all day yesterday. Another person. Come on, Daedroth, let's get in there. Yeah, see, I don't do a whole lot of blocking. Oh yeah, my shield. Popping mana pot. Where's my apprentice at? Okay, so you get a little bit of a taste there. All over the place right now. But anyway, I think there's a quest associated with this, and if I look in here, I might be able to find it. I think it is probably close to the bottom here. Oh, I didn't really think about that. So, unearthing Mehrunes razor. So I guess this is actually like for a dagger. Didn't know that at all, actually. Cool. But yeah, this is the quest line that is associated with it. And then going further in this dungeon, you're going to find a character that's inside of a jail. And he's an assassin of Morag Tong. And I was actually doing some reading, and lore-wise, this is actually pretty cool. But these Morag Tong guys are apparently rivals of the Dark Brotherhood. So when I saw this guy, I was doing some more reading, and I read that if you let him go, You have to break, I think it's like a hard difficulty lock on his cage, but if you let him go, he's going to sneak and kill one of the bosses inside of the dungeon. Spoiler alert, sorry. But either before, while, or after he's doing that, I did it while he was trying to do it, you could kill him, or if he gets killed, you could take his gear. And it gives you the chest piece here, which gives you Fortify Agility, resist normal weapon on yourself, and resist magic 25%. This is the max level version of it, by the way, and full transparency, I use a mod, so I use 3 different mods on this game. I use the one that restores the ability to get universal achievements, because using the console will basically remove that ability for you to get achievements. But on one of the quest lines, it was actually one of the Thieves Guild quest lines, and when I accidentally did a Oblivion Gate near Bruma without realizing that I should have progressed the main story first, it bugged out my whole game, so I had to use the console to fix the game in both cases. Because in the Thieves Guild quest line, I was trying to get this ring out of this lady's jewelry box, and no matter what I was doing, she was not putting the ring in the jewelry box like she was supposed to, and I was reading that it could bug out online as well. So doing that broke my achievement, so that's the first mod that I use. The second one is for making arrows and then alchemical ingredients weightless. I'll put links to these mods in the description below if you want them. And the third one is to auto level items, because when you get unique items in this game, they don't automatically level up as you go. They will basically be at the level you get them at when you first obtain them. So I earned this stuff pretty early on, because like this is probably like one of the first 10 regions I went to, or dungeons rather. This was one of them. So I got this pretty early on, and it was pretty low level. So at the max level of it, which I think is like 25-ish, you get 25% resist magic, normal weapons, and the Fortify Agility. And the way that the Reflect magic and the Absorption magic work, I can't remember between Absorption and Reflection which takes precedent, but essentially I think it might be Spell Absorption. No, it may actually be Reflect. No, I think it might be. So either one of them. So the game will initially, when you have a spell being cast at you, the game's gonna check first for, I think, spell absorption, and then if your chance to absorb the spell goes through, you'll simply absorb it and you'll retain the magicka, or you'll get the magicka back. If the spell absorption fails, then it goes to your reflect, or it's maybe backwards on both of those, but it's going to go between one or the other. So in this case that I'm describing it as, it'll go to the reflect, and then that will have a chance. If it reflects it, that will go through, and then you won't have the damage taken. And then if that continues to fail, then it goes to your resist magic, which I'm pretty sure is the last resort. So I have that 75%er as a last resort, 88%er initially, though, which is great because of the Astronaut side and the Spell Drinker Amulet and the enchantment that I have on my boots. You could go even farther than this, but I don't even think you need to have 100%, honestly. I think you'll be fine with just what I have here. So the Cuirass, that helps with that. The Ring of Nymera, this is actually related to a Daedric Shrine. So to get this one, I had to go over, where was it? Over here. So this one's east of Bruma, and there's actually a specific condition that you need to meet to be able to talk to this Daedric person and accept the quest from them to get this ring. You have to have below 20 personality, which I'm pretty sure, being a vampire. So what I did was I just let my stages of vampirism persist, and doing that, I'm pretty sure had lowered my personality, but I didn't have much to begin with because I didn't focus on that either. You can either take a potion or you can use a power for it, but I essentially drained my personality below 20, and then I was able to talk to her, complete the quest, and get the ring. So the ring gives you reflect damage and reflect spell on yourself. So reflect damage, that's also good for the melee aspect, so that's perfect too, which you need that with that build to be able to, you know, make up for the light armor that you have. The next one is the Spell Drinker Amulet. This one's really good. I don't remember where exactly I got. I'm pretty sure this was from a loot chest. Like, it was just a random chance to get it. So I'm not going to say that this comes from any area in specific, but it may, like, you might have a higher chance of getting it somewhere than another place. These are just standard glass boots that I put the spell absorption on. This was actually the first sigil stone that I was talking about that I actually did save scum for to get. But yeah, you can get the spell absorption. You can put that on your gear. I found that the boots was probably the best way to go, because the boots for the Morag Tor, I didn't really need those for the build as much as the absorb magic. Now, this part here, if you were interested in making a build like this, whether it's with heavy armor or light, but you also wanted to use a shield, I would recommend looking for this. So this is called the Shield of Mirrors, and I got this. I remember where I got it from. So I was doing the final quest in the Thieves Guild, the Ultimate Heist, and doing this quest involves you getting into the Imperial City or like Imperial capital area and trying to steal something from it. And when you do this, you have to go underwater in the sewers during a part of this. And what I did was I ended up going deeper down than I was supposed to, and I found this giant slaughterfish that took a little while to kill, and I got the Shield of Mirrors from him. So the reason I kept this is because just like I wanted to showcase it, but also thinking like in the future, if with this character, if I'd ever decided to level up heavy armor just to see the differences, I would probably use this too. And then I'd probably continue to use a blunt weapon. So blunt, by the way, yeah, blunt does incorporate the great axes. Or axes, but also like the maces, of course. So if it wasn't going to be this one, I would go for the maces. This was actually the weapon that I was going to be going for, but it turned out to be so crap because like this is in my opinion kind of crappy. Um, but this was the battle axe depletion that you can also get from that quest line by stealing from a guy that you're basically going to be it's a battle mage in there that you'll be coming into his chambers, and he has a battle axe of depletion in there. But this is like I have the mod for auto leveling, and this thing is so crap on the stats that I'm not using this at all. But I can't remember where these came from, but I did also get a Weather Ward circlet. This is a ring. Early on in my playthrough, you don't really need this. I just kind of wore this just because it has resist fire, resist frost. But again, if a fire spell or a frost spell is coming at you, you're gonna absorb it, right? Or you're gonna have a higher chance to absorb it, so you don't really need that. But the greaves here, I kept these specifically because it has the feather on it. The fortify speed, don't really need that, but the feather made me keep it. I just because it increases your carry weight capacity. For the Tong Cowl though, I absolutely kept this one though for the detect life. This one though, like so. There was a point when I was doing the Mage Guild's quest line where I was going to get this one replaced. There is a quest that when you get to a certain part of the quest line when you're working with the Archmage, he wants you to get this Necromancer amulet, which I'll talk about in a second, and this helmet. So getting them back and giving it to him basically removes them from the game, so you're not able to keep them. And you can't progress the Mage Guild quest line until you give him those items. So both the Necromancer amulet and that helmet would have been items that I would have suggested for this build had that not been the case, because I think you would want to get to Archmage and you basically get to the end of the quest line. And that helmet also had Detect Life on it, in addition to a couple of stats that would help for mages, which is why I'm so bummed out that you can't retain that one. I also read online, at least in the old Oblivion, that if you went down immediately as soon as you gave it to him and then you tried to pickpocket him, you could try to get the Necromancer amulet or that helmet back, but I wasn't able to do that, so I think they may have fixed that for the remaster. But the next one that I got, pretty sure I got this one from a chest, was the Gauntlet of the Battle Mages, which is for Fortify Alteration, Destruction, and Conjuration, three very crucial parts of this build, which again, even though Alteration isn't a major skill, if I had to do it all over, I'd probably would have swapped either Mysticism or the blocking out for it, or Illusionism. And then the Ring of Aegis, this is kind of just like a secondary one that I have right now. If I had something better, I'd probably work with it, but this one gives you like a constant 15% shield on yourself, so this is really good for dealing with melee as well, especially on the higher difficulties of Master and Expert, so I think this is pretty much needed, at least for this stage of the game that I'm in. And then actually, after you get to the end of the Thieves Guild questline, I probably would switch the the Tong with the Grey Cowl, because this gives you more of a feather bonus alongside the Detect Life. And part of the reason the Detect Life is very useful is, of course, as a vampire, if I'm trying to sneak into somewhere to get a little uptick, get a little something, just a little nibble, this helps a lot with stealthing around and making sure that I'm not going to be spotted by somebody. And then also when you're doing thievery in general, this is going to help a lot too. And also, I just completely forgot. Hopefully I can just put it as a note at the beginning, but the attribute that I focused on initially while making this character was magic. So I didn't go for combat, I went for magic instead. So that's part of the reason that I was able to level up those magic abilities so much and so quickly. So that's pretty much all that there is to know about the build that I have currently. For my current wheel that I have going on right now, I have invisibility on 8, but I would actually have restore health, like a restore health potion on this one. And or like if I'm running with the companion, I'd have a healing spell, like a outgoing healing spell on them. For number one, I got my lightning blast, but again, if depending on the type of mage that you want to be, you could choose something different. It's completely up to you. On my number 5, I got my shield. Number 2, got my heal. And I'm not really rocking with custom spells at the moment. Eventually, I'm probably going to get more into that, but right now, I'm not really concerned with it too much. And so yeah, I got my my ingoing heal on 2. I got my Ziv on 3. My Daedroth on 4. My shield on 5. Restore Magicka, my mana pots on 6. This is my Rage and Respite for my stamina on 7, and then right now I have invisibility on 8. But again, I'd probably go for more of a restore health potion on that one. And as you can see, I got a lot of restore health potions, a lot of restore magicka potions, and that's all due to alchemy, so that's a really important part of the build. But that's all for now, folks. I highly recommend checking out this build if you're interested in becoming a vampire and a melee user plus magic user. And there's probably some other benefits that you can get from being a vampire and a Breton that I haven't really dived into, but this is just the most baseline part of the build that I can go over right now. But thank you guys so much again for watching. Also, the vampirism weakness to fire, that gets completely canceled out, usually by the spell absorption stuff. Thank you guys again for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace out, Girl Scouts.